Hey guys, it's ayebeepee and welcome back to my channel. I've got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, and I'm gonna say that for the next 38 videos because I'm just so proud of myself. I'm also a board member for a nonprofit called Voices for the Silenced, and we help with searches of missing people around West Virginia and surrounding areas. We really try to help bring resources to the family and the friends looking for these missing loved ones. So if you have someone missing that you care about, please get a hold of us and we'll do what we can. I know this is a new setup. We're just going to try it out for 1 or 2 videos that I'm filming back to back and just see, you know, how it goes. But if it looks like crap, I guess let me know down below. And we are here with a talking CJ, and clearly from the title, we are talking about the Third Amendment. Now, the Third Amendment's pretty short and sweet. There's not a whole lot of controversy around it. It's pretty straightforward, but we still need to go over the Third Amendment because it's very important in our society, even if we don't really see a whole lot of issues with it now. So let's just get right in. So leading up to the Revolutionary War, the colonists really governed themselves for about 100 years. Now, coming up to this time, though, that the war happened, the British Parliament was really trying to gain control again on this area. It was also raising taxes extremely high. And so the colonists decided to just refuse to pay it. Now, the Quartering Act was passed by the British Parliament pretty much right before this war happened. Now, this act required the 13 colonies to house these soldiers for the British in their houses. Yes, like the enemy's soldiers in their houses. And they even could be housed in businesses. So they expected the British soldiers to also be housed in like inns and ale houses and even like stables for animals. Crazy. But they weren't making the citizens of Great Britain house any type of troops at all, which then caused quite a bit of people that lived in the colonies to have to legit take care of the enemy's soldiers. And this caused quite a bit of people in the city of Boston to have to not only house these soldiers, but pretty much take care of them completely. So they were spending money on the enemy's side. So then they were having to also spend money on these British soldiers for food, shelter, clothes. They would even have to give them money, and on top of that, get them things like beer and alcohol. Around this time, Boston's population was about 15,000 people, and in 1768, these people were taking care of nearly 4,000 British soldiers. And for about 2 years, this tension completely built between the colonists and the British. And so 2 years of this tension really caused the Boston Massacre to happen. English soldiers just ended up firing into a crowd of people in Boston. They ended up killing about 5 people and they injured quite a bit. And then shortly after that, the Boston Tea Party happened in 1774. Now, the colonists ended up dressing up like the Mohawk Indians and going onto the boats in the harbor and pouring out almost 100 chests of tea. They also ended up destroying about 340 chests of tea, and the total monetary damage was $17 million. And I really want to put into your mind, $17 million is a lot right now, right? Like, that's a lot of money. But think about how much $17 million truly was in 1774. I don't even think they could fathom what $17 million was like back then. And also in 1774, in pretty much retaliation, right? The English passed the Intolerable Acts. This shut down Boston ports, and it took away Massachusetts' ability to self-govern govern. It caused the royal officials to be able to be tried in their home country instead of in Boston or the colonies. This is really when the push of housing soldiers in people's homes and public businesses came about to make sure there was eyes for the English government everywhere. And this just pissed the colonists right off even more. And this is a big reason why there was that massive push in the Declaration of Independence from the colonists to have in there, we could not house soldiers unwillingly anywhere, businesses or our houses. And really the first states that we see make this huge push was Delaware and Virginia, and they ended up writing it into their state constitutions. The Third Amendment was a direct response to this feuding that was happening. It was truly thought that the British was forcing them to house soldiers as a punishment. The soldiers were not nice to the colonists when they were there, and they definitely weren't grateful. Most of the people in the military were already criminals. They drank a lot. They were just mean-spirited. They stole. They got into fights, and they would destroy homes. They would destroy families, and they would even rape a lot of the women. They were not the standard of soldiers that we have nowadays at all. In 1787, Philadelphia held the Constitutional Convention. George Mason ended up bringing up the idea of the Third Amendment being introduced into the Bill of Rights. George Mason was a delegate for the Constitutional Convention, but he was also a drafter of the Declaration of Independence. But other delegates actually disagreed. They argued that the states being able to decide that was enough. And they argued that doing this right now would look like some rights meant more than others. So ultimately, at this time, the Third Amendment was shot down. But at the 1788 Virginia Ratifying Convention, Patrick Henry stated, "One of our first complaints under the former government was the quartering of troops among us. This was one of the principal reasons for dissolving the connection of Great Britain. Here we may have troops in time and peace. They must be belayed in any manner, tyrannize, oppress, and crush us." And the Third Amendment was introduced to Congress in 1789. It was written by James Madison, and he absolutely planned for it to be part of the Bill of Rights. Congress proposed this amendment to the states on September 28, 1789. By December 15, 1791, enough states ratified it, and it was able to be added to the Bill of Rights. And the Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson, ended up adopting it on March 1st, 1792. Now, what does the Third Amendment actually say? No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a matter to be prescribed by law. So what are the benefits of the Third Amendment? This clearly forbids soldiers being housed in your house without consent, especially at time of peace. And some type of law would have to be passed before soldiers were forced in time of war to be housed. And like I said earlier, this is actually the least controversial amendment in the Constitution, and it has barely ever been litigated. This amendment is just so straightforward, so it's never really been argued at the Supreme Court level, and it's absolutely the least cited amendment. But there are a few cases I just want to mention really quick. In 1965, Griswold versus Connecticut happened, and they did cite the Third Amendment. They were implying the belief that someone's home needed to be free of all agents of the state. In 1982, Inglom versus Carey happened, and they also mentioned the Third Amendment. New York prison officials were trying to organize a strike. They were evicted from the prison residency, clearly, and National Guard ended up coming in and taking over the jobs of the prison officials. Now, the Court of Appeals Second Circuit that the National Guard coming to live in these prisons with these inmates violated their Third Amendment because they were soldiers in this place that prisoners were being forced to live. Now, it was dismissed because, let's be honest, that was a little bit of a stretch, but it is interesting to bring up. Nowadays, we are probably just never going to find ourselves in a situation that we are going to have to use our Third Amendment right. And most people see that as the Third Amendment being very successful, right? There's not really any type of question on violating this right. And it is a good baseline on property rights. The home is one of the most important things that we have as a person in society. And privacy in our home is very important. And that is all I have for the Third Amendment. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. I still have a GoFundMe going for Crystal Young. If you have not watched her video yet, you need to, so you know why her mom needs this PI so bad. And I still have stickers for sale. They're $2 each, and all proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. And thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.